Mark, are you about to write down the attendees? Oh, I thought you were. That was gonna be great.
I will do that. I'll do that.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna get started. We have a new meeting schedule. As you noticed, it's not Wednesday, it's Thursday. Very exciting. So we're gonna be meeting the first Thursday of every month instead of the first Wednesday. And we've decided to stick at one time. So this time. And I look forward to seeing you at a consistent time every month. Hopefully that will make it easier for everyone.
Yep.
My next announcement is that we have CF Day set on May 15th in New York City, and the CFP is open. So if you have an idea for a talk, that would be great. I'll be there. Maybe I'll get to meet some of you in person. I know it's a long way. But also CF Day in Germany, which will be in October, is going to be announced soon.
Nice.
And I plan to be there too. So if you can't make New York City, hopefully I'll meet you in Germany. Okay, Plumman, looks like you're basically running the meeting today.
Really? Sorry again.
No, I love it. Go for it.
Okay, so I thought it's worth mentioning. Not sure if you noticed this critical vulnerability. Luckily, it's already fixed in RunC, and 2 days ago, our colleagues released already a CF deployment. So yeah, basically, at least for now, seems like if everything is updated, like running foundations, if they are updated, so yeah, pretty much seems like we are fine. But anyway, so yeah, possible container breakout seems like serious.
Yes, we were given a pre-disclosure about this. We
Yeah.
were not able to exploit it, but given its seriousness, you know, that doesn't mean no one can.
Yeah.
And so I believe our team, I have been working on a different team recently. I believe our team has patched this already. Maybe Mark, you can confirm, or Eric.
Sounds right. We should double check, but
Sure.
There's a high confidence that it's been patched already.
Yeah,
Mm.
Eric, maybe you.
Yeah, I think there was quite a lot of urgency to cutting a Garden RunC release with the bump for RunC after the fix came out.
Yeah, maybe I'll loop back and I'll make sure that the release notes say, hey, this version of RunC fixes this CVE, so it's clear.
Yeah. And this more or less goes to my next topic.
Oh, it actually does mention the CVE in the release.
Oh, it does.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
it does.
In
It
the
does.
Garden RunC ones or in CFD or both?
Garden
Yeah,
RunC.
Garden RunC mentions the SV.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the link to the specific release.
Okay. Great. Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, my next topic, I was more or less interested whether you have ever thought about having something like automated dependency bumps, like Dependabot or whatever, because on our side, we have a security scans configured, and we regularly scan whatever we receive from the upstream open source, whatever we call it. And yeah, it's I should say that there are a lot of vulnerabilities reported by the tools we use, and majority of them actually are already fixed in a greater versions of the dependencies, but sadly, we do not have them bumped into the releases which we currently use. And I was wondering whether such idea to have something like an automated dependency bump procedure you have ever considered.
The areas that I'm most familiar with, so networking, routing, Diego Garden, I believe we do have pipelines that automatically bump dependencies. We don't use Dependabot because I think they don't play nicely with submodules. So we don't use Dependabot. We also have scans that run our releases and give us warnings, but I found last week that they were going green even when they found things, and so we weren't being notified. And so we were not releasing because, yeah, anyway, we didn't realize. So hopefully, now that we're getting all of our alerts again, we should be releasing because we all have to release in order to make our scans go away as well. But if there's a particular release or something, I would love to see an example and be able to like check, to make sure that we are doing it for this release. So if there's like like our working group is so big, it's hard for me to say, yes, I'll check every single thing. But if there's a particular release that you care the most about, I can go and make sure we're bumping. And always feel free to ask us to release because I know we don't always.
Yep, I'm more or less trying to reduce the burden which we currently have assessing all those vulnerabilities, because we are talking here about hundreds of vulnerabilities. I mean, our team is responsible for Diego, CF networking, I mean, the releases which we are responsible in this working group here. And every time I need to go assess to any new actually appears. But yeah, my idea was if it's actually possible to automatically bump so that we do not to do that. Basically, what I actually do is open the issue, mark it as remediation required, and write something like it's released in a greater version, but we are waiting. So that if we can resolve these kind of situations even as soon as I don't know, they appear by having something like automatic bump would be really great. But if you say that there is something in place, I will try to look at it and see whether and how it works, because to be honest, I haven't seen, or maybe I haven't looked really well, any kind of commits triggered by such a tool. I mean,
Is this related to a specific release, or is this because I know we have actually multiple levels of bumping going on. We have our dependabots that kind of handle things through GitHub, but we also have the internal pipeline. I believe Jeff was the author for that. No? Oh, what is it? The go get update?
I think that was Amin and Brandon and
Okay,
Maria.
my bad.
Are we bumping dependency, let's say, on a release level, assuming Diego release, or a component level, assuming, let's say, BBS?
So I believe it's more at the component level. There might be some at the release level, but mostly it's handled at the component level at that individual repo level. And it's handled by like jobs like this. We do still occasionally get some Dependabot stuff, but there's a bit of overlap here. So we have some Dependabot jobs that are running that this bump dependencies GOMOD is handling. And I'm just I'm curious about the gaps that you're seeing.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I would then go over them again and see if I will not really.
Simon, I think you should, all these with working group ARP in front of them, you should have access to if you're an approver in that area.
Unfortunately, I'm not yet. I'm a reviewer.
You're a reviewer?
Yep.
Do we give any access, like read access to reviewers? I'll look into that.
We should. We should
did.
have. Yeah. I thought
You might
it was
be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can paste me the link, I will try it later.
Yeah. And we've been doing a lot of work around making sure that our open source pipelines, that the configuration for like the pipelines themselves are in the open source,
Mhm.
or like in repos that are open source. So hopefully we can get those to you. I'm gonna, it's like, oh my gosh. I always want to open my Slack and then I remember that this is actually recorded and I have no idea what my Slack is open to. So I'm gonna paste it here and not Slack it to you. I'll make sure that the reviewers have access to Concourse. And Mark, can I assign to you? I know you've been working on the open source Concourse stuff, like sending over the repos and stuff where it's configured. Thank you. But I agree with Mark. So if like, we'll send you what we have, but then if you have specific cases that aren't being covered, that would be a great thing to learn.
Okay.
I know with our scanning system, we sometimes, they're false positives and we say something doesn't affect us. And so I wonder if we're both having to do that for, for both of our scanning systems. Thank you for bringing this up though. Any more thoughts on that? Or should we talk about this next one? Some PRs you've been opening. This next one's actually 3.
Yeah. We have 3 PRs opened. Some of them are kind of already communicated. I'll
Mhm.
start one by one. So first one is a proposal for a improvement, exception handling improvement. So recently we already hit some limitations with the size of VCAP services environment variable. It cannot exceed 130K. But on our case, it exceeds. And so far on the customer side, almost dummy message appears. Customers are not able to kind of narrow down the problem to a large environment variable. So we propose something like this is what is actually this is what actually appears in the log messages. Staging failed, but actually it's staging failed due to environment too long or whatever. In order to look into these messages, you need to go to infrastructure logs and
Yeah, that would be a great improvement if this
Yeah,
said
I
something
mean-
more specific.
yeah, I mean, operators, landscape Cloud Foundry operator support is required so that the customer is able to narrow down the problem to a environment variable too long.
Yeah, that seems painful. Is this a PR for it? Have you submitted a?
Yes, it's a PR. I already provided some feedback to it.
Okay,
And, yeah, maybe.
nice.
Yeah, it's in yes, in the executor. Yeah, I already look at it.
Okay, we'll make sure that gets
Plum, I think I saw Amin have a comment on the Diego release issue. It's the parent where he was, I think, asking for some clarity on repro steps.
I'll reach out to Amin and make sure he yeah, I'm not sure which error he's talking about. Maybe this one.
Well, I think maybe he's trying to reproduce, like he's trying to verify the desired logs from the executor PR and just testing
Maybe
it out
hasn't gotten
before
quite
merging.
a big enough
Maybe, yeah, needs some more
Yeah.
stuff on the
Yeah.
argument list.
yeah. Yeah, I guess here it's a little bit vague. It says if it exceeds the MVAR size limit. Plowman, do you think you could take an action item to give Amin exact sizes in order to break it?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Just send give me an action item.
Yeah.
It's a limitation on kernel level, and I will give you exact because it's 1028 something. it's easy for us to say 130K, but it's actually not. It's a limitation in kernel level. And I will provide
Interesting.
bytes.
Yeah, I've heard of this happening before,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
maybe with Java apps. So this seems like it would help.
Java apps, unfortunately, in our case, it's due to applications storing a large amount of X509 certificates. And in some case, when we rotate automatically those certificates, it could happen that your application simply crash.
Oh, because you're putting two certs in there when you're rotating. Oh,
Mm.
that's unfortunate.
and out of the sudden, your application simply crash and customers
Mhm.
are.
Okay, next
Okay.
one.
Yeah, next one is improvement proposal. So if you remember, several months ago, we did an improvement of the desired LRP, how actually the endpoint is communicated and what the return data structure consists of, because we noticed that a lot of information is returned to the route emitter, but actually majority of that data is not used. So we introduced a smaller data structure which contains exactly the information needed for the route emitter, which introduces a really a big improvement on the networking side, not ingress, but outbound traffic of the Diego API. So right now there is another endpoint which is called desired LRP by GUID, which could also be improved. And this is actually the proposal for how to improve it. So the effect which we'll see is in case of LRPs in LRPs which are currently crashed and during the rescheduling evacuation. The get LRP by GUID endpoint is used in these cases.
So you're changing two different BBS endpoints to return less only needed information, less information. Is that, I'm hearing that correctly?
Yes.
And who calls these endpoints?
As far as I remember, the route emitter.
Okay. I'm asking just because I know we have a multiple networking interfaces, right? We support Silk, and then VMware supports the NCP for NSXT stuff, and it can hook into some of these BBS events. But maybe if it seems like this is only route emitter, then we control everything, and that seems like it should be fine.
Yeah, we think so. Of course, appreciate if someone review it and provide some sort of feedback.
Great. Thank you so much for you all have been doing a lot of optimizations recently. It's been really nice.
Last year was a cost optimization year. Now we continue. Cost optimization is always a topic on the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last one. CPU weight validation.
Yeah, CPU weight validation. This topic is with regards to the new default per instance memory. So far, if you remember, we are providing to customer 8 GB by default per instance memory, but we want to increase this to 16 gigabytes. So there is currently a CPU weight calculation which happens on the copy side, and we had already communication with copy colleagues. Also, Eric, also you were involved there, and we decided that this calculation will remain there, but it will lead to a values greater than 100. And in our case, on the Diego side, unfortunately, we have this validation, which is not able to handle values greater than 100. And basically, it's been decided that we should to remove this validation so that we are able to relax the BBS to make it able to handle values greater than 100 and to currently keep existing default, but also allow assignments to, per instance, to let's say 16 GB.
Eric, do you have history on why this existed in the first place?
This dates from pretty far back in Diego. I think that we had some notion that like we effectively wanted to cap that CPU, 8 gigabytes and one roughly virtual CPU of compute ought to be enough for anyone. In practice, this is basically just a proxy for CPU shares, and there's really no limit on that when you get down to C groups. So I think that, yeah, this restriction just ended up being kind of artificial based on some notion that we'd want to keep things on that scale from 0 to 100, but it doesn't really make sense now that we're evaluating it a little more carefully here.
Okay. Seems reasonable to me then. Thank you for our Diego history lesson. Any other thoughts on this one besides needing a reviewer? Okay, Dominic. Edge case for
Oh, yeah.
Diego health check. Oh no.
Last 5 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah,
are we
this
only 30 minutes long? We should be an hour long.
Yeah, it's an hour.
Oh, we
Oh,
are
okay.
okay.
You
Okay.
have
35 minutes, Dominic.
minutes.
Oh, that's nice. Okay. It may be just a minor thing, but we just had a user open a ticket with us. He claims that his app was down or unreachable for like 3 hours and it wasn't rescheduled anywhere else. And we looked into why Diego didn't do it, despite GoRouter not being able to connect to it. And it seems like there's a discrepancy between what Diego, the health check, the HTTP health check, thinks of the app and like the outside world. In this case, GoRouter tried to connect to Envoy, to the Envoy port, and it got for whatever reason, we don't know yet, got an IO timeout, so it couldn't connect, and it pruned the endpoint. And the health check, I think, runs locally or inside the app container and speaks to the app. And this works still and caused route emitter to constantly re-register this endpoint again. And then GoRouter comes along again and tries to reconnect and rinse and repeat. And I don't really know where the issue is, but I think it might be related to where the health check connects with. Is it the same endpoint like IP and port that GoRouter does, or is it like only like localhost 8080? Because that would explain it to me. That's why I'm here to just align if we should raise this with Diego or I don't know who else.
I believe the health check connects directly to whatever port it's configured to talk to. It does not talk to through Envoy. So it's running locally in your app container and talks directly to it. I know in some cases, so before we say, oh, we should always talk through Envoy, in some cases, well, first you have a port health checks, right? And so it just checks that the port is up. So you wouldn't want to do that through Envoy. In the HTTP cases, sometimes you can point it maybe I'm getting this wrong. You can point it at a different port than like your traffic from GoRouter points to, right? So there's like an idea that you could have something running that's like only running health stuff that's separate from like the actual work of your app. And so Envoy would not currently does not know how to talk to any other port except the one that's like registered all the way through GoRouter. So yes, it doesn't go through Envoy. Is your thought that if it went through Envoy, it might have determined or figured out this error and it would have recreated?
Yeah, I think it could be like a kind of blind spot where
Yeah.
Envoy could be unhealthy, but nobody checks until GoRouter then tries to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's amplifying the issue is that the app gets re-registered again and again and keeps staying unhealthy. So there's no like automatic rescheduling, restaging the app somewhere else. So the customer had to manually basically stop and restart the app. So it got replaced.
Have you been able to reproduce this at all?
Not yet. It just reached me like before this meeting. So like 10 minutes before. So I'm gonna try to dig into it a little more, try to reproduce it. It's just maybe one thing that we could tweak to like improve the health checks.
Yeah, I wonder what case what state that their Envoy was in, and if we could have detected it. Yeah, it does. Very interesting.
So I'm gonna take it with Plummen, I think, because it's related to Diego, or who should I talk to now? There's we have a ticket like internally. I think Plummen, you're also subscribed. So maybe we take it first and see what we find and then bring it back to the community to see where we should like improve. Oh, all right.
Yeah, especially if you can find a reproduction case that's like, if Envoy is in this particular state, and then we can decide how we want to deal with it. Because I agree, that seems undesirable.
Yeah, we might want to check and see if the rep or the executor is doing any monitoring of the port status on those proxying ports. I think we had some discussion of checking those when we first introduced Envoy, but we may not have done anything.
I vaguely remember seeing logs recently for some unrelated troubleshooting thing that were like health checks for Envoy, but I could be wrong. And I also don't know what those health checks actually do. So,
Jeff, do you think, can I give you an action item to see if you can find that again and share it with Dominic?
Sure.
Also, now that we've got this kind of intermediate readiness state that the rep can communicate, depending on what we find, we might be able to take advantage of that in terms of communicating the status of the app instance.
Yeah, like right now, well, I guess in this case, maybe something was unhealthy and it needed to.
Yeah, in this case, if Envoy was just broken, then you'd probably want to trash the whole thing and start over.
Okay, lots of technical discussion today. Is there anything else? Okay. Well, I will see you the first Thursday of March. It was good chatting with you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Thank
Bye.
you. Cheers.